Well, good evening. And this is like we've gone through the fourth quarter, but we had to go into overtime. And you get me. And I recognize I am really the last thing between you and the end of this program. So I think I should get started. But first, since I was sitting on that chair, no cushion, I'm going to ask all of you to stand up if you're able for 1 second, get the blood flowing, and then sit back down. And I'll take a sentence off my speech for that. All right. Well, it is truly my delight to once again be here at the Academy. I'm humbled and I'm honored. Superintendent Sean Buck, thank you for your incredible leadership. Well, I thank God first for being here, and I thanks to all those involved in my selection, especially my classmates who pushed my nomination. Particularly Joe Leidig, Bob Schumerman, and Ray Luvano, who worked with me there for getting the write-up, etc. But also I want to salute Harry Harris and, of course, Mark Ferguson that's up here. Anyone out there from the great, great class of 1978? Thanks for being here, and thanks for being my classmates. I do want to salute today's and those DGAs previously recognized over the years, for I have been blessed by the collective leadership and mentorship of many of them. What is neat for me is that each of these awardees up here have touched my life in one way or the other. General Leo Williams and I served on that Military Leadership Diversity Commission well over a decade ago. I report to Congress where many of those recommendations are still applicable today. The iconic Admiral Jim Stavridis, our many conversations, I thank you, and clearly I enjoy his books and his writings. Ron Nichols and I serve on the Naval Academy Foundation Board together. It's a pleasure working with him. And JC, Julius Caesar. He was responsible for that blind date I had back here at the Naval Academy with my late bride, Miss Bonnie. So he's distinguished in my eyes from the many years I had with Miss Bonnie. So thank you, JC. Way too many to recognize here that I've benefited from their leadership and their support and their mentorship. People like Admiral Rich Meese, Mike Mullen, Kirk Donald, Paul Reason, Larry Chambers, and just so many other Naval Academy graduates like Admiral Gary Ruffhead. Of course, I would not be here if it was not for the love and support I received from my family. Thank God for providing me what I needed in that regard. There are no coincidences. Miss Bonnie sacrificed her career and went with me tour after tour, providing me her love, but also her astute wisdom as a sociologist, and kept me grounded in just so many ways, serving as a single parent as I disappeared under the waves. Noteworthy as each of my children faced significant medical issues. So JC, you did pretty good, even though when he introduced us, he told each one of us not to expect much from the other. We exceeded his expectation. My children, Elizabeth, Thomas, Joseph, are the delights in my life who tolerated the disruptive nature of attending so many schools in different states over the years, two of them which I moved for their senior year in high school. This is why today I volunteered to serve on the board of the Military Child Education Coalition, because I've always had an earful from them on this, for Miss Bonnie and so many other military families, as we move them so many times, different states with their own individual graduation and passing requirements. The grandsons you saw in the picture there, TJ, Daniel, and Timmy, are of course the spark in my life today. There is nothing like hearing them call those magic words of Grandpa. My two siblings, Yvonne and Yvette. Yvonne, a retired school teacher, secondary school teacher, and a published author. And Yvette, retired from the Defense Intelligence Agency and now runs her own fitness instructor business, are here. And would you wave and be recognized? Now, I have sworn them to secrecy, as they have real stories about me growing up that I'd rather keep under the water, per se. But we are blessed as siblings to be the closest of siblings that I think exist on this earth. Now, my dad, he was a no-nonsense kind of individual when it came to valuing education, but fun in so many other aspects. And my mom was a prime example of biblical levels of the patience she exhibited and, of course, taught us. Both without the benefit of college education, but each of them pushed us to attend, with Yvonne completing her PhD. Now, my lady, Miss Pat, couldn't be here today, as she had a medical issue here brewing over the week, but I know her spirit's with us, and I thank her for her love and support today. She's sort of Army tough, though, as a cavalry officer retiree. I thank all of them, and especially the men and women that I have had the privilege and continue to have the privilege to serve with. So to the brigade. This institution is all about developing your personal readiness for service. I hope and pray that you are taking advantage of every aspect of it. I've already talked about one thing, and that is about giving thanks. I have three things for you to consider tonight. Number one, take advantage of opportunities with humility to build your character. You know, as a Naval Academy inductee in the beginning, I had come here in the category of gifted in not being able to swim, so I got inducted into swimming sub-squad, as was mentioned earlier today. Does it still exist, Superintendent?
Yes, sir, it does.
Do we have any, never mind, I won't ask that question out there. But needless to say, I did graduate from swimming sub-squad, but there was no distinction added to that graduation. But boy, did I grow up from the humbling experience that I would reflect whenever I would dive in the water out at sea in what we call swim calls. Yes, even from a submarine. Or maybe I could elaborate on my 5th jump during airborne parachute training that did not go so well. After badly bruising my feet due to an operator error, it caused me to slow down and think more deeply about service selection. The jump counted, though, and I did go off and do a few more jumps, a couple more jumps. But I was humbled, of course, and yet another learning experience. Whatever we do, we can expect problems and setbacks that we must overcome, learn from them, and then get back in the fight. So my message here is for you to volunteer and experience at every opportunity you can while here, and also when you become that junior officer. You will never know how you will use it in the future. Now, my mother said, do all you can while you can. And while doing so, my dad would stress the importance of not getting a big head about ourselves. Sound advice, I think. So my second point is stay grounded. A question I often asked many who wanted to work for me was, how do you stay grounded? That usually got a pregnant pause, and then they would start talking. From my standpoint, only you can take stock of that, and you must examine if you are doing enough to create resiliency in this area. You must prevent groupthink and distractions from your moral compass. Your decisions now and as a commissioned officer will have consequences to the people that are on your team, to the mission, and perhaps our country's reputation. From those leaders already mentioned, and even my peers, and of course Miss Bonnie, and my various church families throughout my career, they helped reinforce that in me. And even today, in what I do, I still take a pause for midweek Bible study, which I lead, and singing in the choir to keep me grounded. Another question I would ask is, what are you reading? What activities do you participate in? What discussions are you involved in to help reinforce staying grounded? We must all work on this, and I would add we must have a battle buddy, no matter how junior or senior you are. You must also, as part of that, give back, as you've heard in the earlier discussions. Now, Kerwin Miller is out there somewhere, a Naval Academy grad, and I used to work for him as he was a senior blue and gold information officer when I was a young officer who gave me the opportunity to serve as one. You also saw the video of the Centennial 7, and I would ask in the audience today, Vice Admirals retired Bruce Grooms and Mel Williams, if you would wave your hand there and be recognized. Thank you. Both also Naval Academy graduates. Over the years, this group serves as a mentoring tool for this academy and the Navy at large, but it also gave us a venue to talk about real issues among ourselves. 7 and soon to be 21. Vance Scott is in the audience today, I think also. Can you wave your hand? Over there on the side. Soon to be commanding officer of the Nebraska. We've lost 3 of the 7, but these are reinforcements and release. The momentum has been established as we continue to keep each other grounded. So what's number 3? 3 is to be careful with an over-focus on establishing your legacy. Now, why do I bring this up? You see, competition is good, and we focus it appropriately in so many areas. Sometimes interim success creates an over-focus on ourself or on our unit. Vice, the mission. Mission success must be your focus. We are currently dealing with so much uncertainty in this complex world today that requires more than ever integrity, teamwork, and the integration of diverse opinions, talents, and forces operating simultaneously in multiple dimensions. What your legacy must be is to qualify quickly, assimilate into the team you are assigned, help build up the weaker links of the team, increase team resiliency, be an effective communicator, and be engaged to deliver. To do this, you must assess personal strengths and weaknesses, have a questioning attitude, and be able to encourage others, and be mission-focused. You have so much more as midshipmen to consider than I did when I graduated, given the challenges of today in so many areas. I want to thank each of you for being part of the brigade, and may something we said today help you deal with the uncertainty in the future. Now, I'm a big believer that you should continually read, not just Admiral Stavridis books, but more. 3 areas I push: personal development and leadership development, history, and fiction. And I'll dwell on the last one for a minute, in that we need fiction to expand your mind in areas that generally don't fit in traditional military formation. Now, I am currently getting a twofer by starting to read the book by an individual I met a couple times as Commander Stratcom, and that was the Honorable Dr. Henry Kissinger. His most recent book is called Leadership: 6 Studies in World Strategy, where he vividly discusses 6 extraordinary 21st century leaders and their strategic leadership approaches. One of the 6, when asked how he wanted to be remembered, replied simply, quote, that he had done his duty, end quote. When you are in your ripe, mature age, I hope and pray that your legacy will reflect on you, that you have done your duty and have created mission success. Thanks again for the opportunity to be here tonight with you. May God bless you and continue to bless our nation. Beat Army.